This is the 6 p.m. edition of NewsCenter 11 for Saturday, March 17th, 1979, with anchorman Stan Borman, Keith Eichner with the weather, Steve Pacenti on sports, and the NewsCenter 11 reporting team.
Good evening, everybody. This is NewsCenter 11. I'm Stan Borman, and here's what's happening tonight at 6 o'clock. It's been a grand St. Paddy's Day for the Twin Cities Irish community. Rain stopped just as the biggest St. Patrick's Day parade ever got underway. Our Jane Mitchell was there, and she files this report.
The music of Ireland swept through the streets of downtown St. Paul today as about 100,000 cheering St. Patrick's Day celebrants danced, marched along, or simply observed with a smile. It is being called the best St. Patrick's Day turnout ever. One young woman told us why.
We just got it, the energy, we got it going.
And everyone helped get it together. Clan after Irish clan paraded down Robert Street with not a member of the family left home. Often these pets led the way as their young owners tagged along, and other youngsters watched from the sidelines. Many did the Irish jig.
How do you feel this St. Patrick's Day?
Terrific! We don't need any sun, we got all the sun we need.
You're gonna keep on hopping all day?
All day, non-stop.
Then, of course, there was the singing.
Over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band.
The parade had its rowdier moments, but police report it was all cheerful merrymaking and no violence. And as the last of the floats paraded by, the parade was technically finished, though the celebrations will undoubtedly continue into the wee hours of the morning. Jane Mitchell, NewsCenter 11.
And you can count on that. In other news, Minnesota Civil Liberties Union officials say Como Falcon Heights residents who oppose the establishment of the proposed Bethel College Job Corps Center are racists. MCLU officials say they will urge Governor Al Quie to reverse his stand in opposition to the site. Recently, Governor Quie announced that he would ask the Department of Labor to look for a new site because such a facility should have, and I quote here, strong community support. MCLU official Matthew Stark said that community support is lacking because most of the Job Corps trainees will be members of minorities. Stark says his claims of racism are shocking, but nevertheless, he insisted that they are, in fact, justified.
The question is whether it's true or not, and I believe it's true, that the reason that the people in the Como Falcon Heights neighborhood are objecting to these young people is either because of their race or because that they believe that sometime in the future, in an undesignated time, that these youngsters who haven't as yet even been chosen might commit some kind of undesignated crime. So it's either a racist thing or it's a violation of due process.
Incidentally, because of the weekend, Governor Quie could not be reached. We attempted on the phone, but no answer, and we will attempt to bring you his response early next week. Officials of Northern States Power Company say serious cutbacks in natural gas service could possibly occur in northwestern Minnesota unless Canada renews a contract to export gas. A gas cutoff would affect some 16,000 people living in Minnesota. And with everybody looking to save money on fuel costs, the state of Rhode Island is making sure homeowners get their money's worth. NBC's Jack Kavanaugh has more on that story.
Rick Boynton is an energy auditor from a private nonprofit group called RISE, Rhode Islanders Saving Energy. The house is 29 years old and is already heated by a wood stove, and it is fitted with combination storm windows. The energy audit will take about 90 minutes, and it is free. The program was established because homeowners were being cheated by insulation contractors and had nowhere to turn for reliable information. The RISE program is funded by the Federal Energy Office, through the state, and by private utility companies in this area.
He does a very thorough heat loss calculation once he's accomplished the inspection. And what that does is establish what the overall heat loss of the building is as is. Then, using those same calculations, he's able to identify what the homeowner could expect to save if a total retrofitting weatherization project was undertaken.
In Rhode Island's humid climate, ventilation is the most often overlooked insulation consideration. The proper weather stripping is often cheaper and more efficient. This homeowner was surprised to find that he needed more insulation.
I really thought I had good insulation in the house, and to my surprise, I don't.
The auditor carries a list of contractors already screened by the agency. Once the contractor is through, Rise will come back for a final follow-up inspection to make sure the work was done right. If it has to be redone, it will be redone at no further expense to the homeowner. Jack Kavanaugh for NBC News, West Warwick, Rhode Island.
A new motion picture just released across the nation yesterday is causing quite a stir nationally. The movie is called The China Syndrome. It deals with a near-nuclear disaster in Southern California. What the picture is also about is the business of broadcast journalism, how a story is found, how it develops, and the problems encountered in trying to get that controversial story on the air. NewsCenter 11's Nancy Nelson has some observations on the newly released China Syndrome. Nancy?
Stan, last night we talked about China Syndrome and the tremendous impact it's already had. The film is produced by Michael Douglas, his first production since his smash hit One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Douglas set out to make a statement film about nuclear energy, and so he chose actors who, like himself, were on record against nuclear energy. Jane Fonda and Jack Lemmon are his co-stars, and the combination of these three Academy Award winners and an overwhelmingly intense script creates an impact seldom seen on screen. But there's another side to this film. Jane Fonda plays a newswoman and Michael Douglas her cameraman. As they accidentally stumble upon a near-nuclear accident, we see an impressive portrayal of local news gathering and reporting, without question the most authentic I've ever seen. But Stan, I'd be remiss if I didn't dwell on this just a bit. Before coming to us, our NewsCenter 11 anchorman, Stan Borman, lived and worked for a while in San Francisco. When Douglas was making his series, Streets of San Francisco, he used to watch Stan on the news. And when he found he needed a news anchorman in his China Syndrome, he knew who he wanted. What surprised me most of all is what a significant role you have, Stan, and how good you are. Honestly, I'd say that even if you weren't sitting there. China Syndrome is an intense film without much relief. Literally, it has you on the edge of your seat. I couldn't recommend it more highly. And if the news anchor man looks familiar, it's because he's our own Stan Borman. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I didn't realize what you were going to do in that particular piece. I'm a little bit embarrassed, and I'm also very pleased. Thank you. It's very nice words. In other news, contract negotiations between representatives of the teachers at Minnesota's 18 community colleges in the state broke off today. Union officials say they've gone as far as they can until the state modifies its position somewhat. A union spokesman would not comment on the negotiations today. However, a news conference is scheduled for 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and NewsCenter 11's cameras will be there. A showdown looms Monday in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where striking teachers say they'll remain off the job while school officials vow that classes will continue. About half of the city's teachers walked out Friday morning in an attempt to force the school board to recognize the union as their sole bargaining agent. Schools remained open with help from parents and substitute teachers. The strike came one day after Governor Edwin Edwards proposed a 10% pay raise for all of the state's teachers. Meanwhile, about 1,000 teachers in Cincinnati stayed away from schools on Friday there in what administrators said was a sick-out by teachers upset over low wages and large classes. Superintendent James Jacobs says anyone who calls in sick Monday must provide a written statement, a note, if you will, from their doctor. Coming up, new finding on women's breast cancer. Dr. Michael Breen has a story on Ray's syndrome, and NewsCenter 11 will continue.